This is the lesson for the process analysis chapter. Now there are two different types of processes. One is called the directional and the other is called the informational. And it might be helpful to look at these not exactly as two processes, but to look at one as a process and another as a procedure to help you keep them straight in your mind. The informational is more of a traditional process. At least in the business world, this would be considered a process, whereas the directional would be considered more of a procedure or a how to do something. And an easy way to keep these two separate is to think about making toast. The directional is the how-to, or it's the how to make toast. First, you take a piece of bread, a toaster, you put the bread in, you push the lever down, wait for the bread to pop up. That is a very basic procedure or process for how to make toast. The informational is more along the lines of how a toaster works or how something happens. So for the informational, it would be more along the lines of the electricity comes through the cord and into the toaster unit. It causes the coils to heat up. The heating of the coils cause the bread to brown, and then a mechanism that's on a timer causes the lever to pop up and the bread pops up. That's kind of the how it works. This one is the how to do it, but this one is how it all works. So hopefully you can kind of keep straight in your mind using these two easy examples the difference between the directional and the informational. Now as you're writing your essays, you can do a purely directional essay, you can do a purely informational essay, or you can do a combination of both. Any of those possibilities will work well for your student essays. But one important thing that you want to keep in mind when you are formulating your essays is to think about your thesis. Now your essay should be more than just a how to do something. More than just here is my recipe for making blueberry pancakes, or here is how to change the oil in your car. It should be much broader than that. It shouldn't be just the process just for the sake of doing a process. There should be a larger goal in mind. So an example of how to show that larger goal would be, here is my recipe for making blueberry pancakes, and this is why they're better than any other pancakes in the world. Since keeping your car in good working order is such an important part of our lives, that it is extremely important to make sure that we do that maintenance, but it's also very economical to learn how to do it yourself. Why pay someone else to do something that you could easily do yourself in 30 minutes or less in your own driveway? So make sure that when you're thinking about your thesis, that you think about the larger purpose than just, here's my process. Also, you need to keep your audience in mind. What do they know about the process? What do they need to know? So what kind of background information do you need to give them? Also, are there any technical terms that you need to explain for your audience? Make sure that you think about that as well. Also, is there a list of materials, a list of supplies, a list of ingredients, or a list of equipment that is needed? If so, consider putting that near the beginning of your essay. You could put that at the very beginning, like think of the format for a recipe. The first thing you have is the list of ingredients. Or you could put them near the beginning, maybe after your introduction. And you could just give something very simple as a bulleted list will suffice. So if you were giving the process for how to carve a pumpkin, you may give a list of supplies or materials that are needed, and put that near the beginning. So you would need things like newspaper for cleaning up the mess or making sure that you don't totally destroy your working area. Things like supplies like knives. Do you need more than one knife? I know for different types of cutting, different people prefer different types of knives. Do you need a serrated knife? Do you need a small knife for doing intricate carving work? So make sure that you put those details in there. If you need 2 large pots for making something, or a medium-sized frying pan and an extra large frying pan, make sure that you put those near the beginning in a supplies, materials, or ingredients list, because there are a few things more frustrating than getting in the middle of a procedure, especially a recipe if you're baking something, and realize that you need an ingredient that you don't have. So put those near the beginning so that it's much easier to keep them straight, so your audience knows ahead of time, okay, here's what I need to do this process. You also need to think about point of view. We've talked before about a first-person point of view, which is the I or the me perspective. We've talked about third-person point of view, which is from someone else's point of view, from he, she, the doctor, the technician. That's the third-person point of view. And for the process, we're going to incorporate the second-person point of view. And the second person is the you point of view, which works mainly for the directional or how to do something. So if you're explaining how to change your oil, you may use the you point of view, which is first you do this, then you do that. The command form is also it's also a version of the second person because the you is implied. So if you leave out the word you, but give the command like first do this, then do that, then go over there, then use this tool, that's still second person point of view because the you is implied in that command. The informational can use the first person point of view. For example, if I'm giving an informational on how I get ready for work in the morning, I could make it go something like this. First, I get out of bed, then I brush my teeth, then I put on my clothes, then I do this, then I drink my coffee, so forth. The informational can also use the third person point of view. First, the technician removes the screws, then the technician does this, then the technician does that. So the second person point of view works very well for the directional. First and third person point of view works well for the informational. Also, you might want to consider using an outline. Outlines can be handy to keep all of the different steps straight. Outlines are especially useful when you have processes that are happening simultaneously. So while A is happening, B and C may be happening at the same time. For example, if you're baking a Thanksgiving dinner, while the turkey's baking, you may be preparing all kinds of other dishes in the several hours that it takes for the turkey to bake. Now that turkey baking process is still going on, but while it's happening, these other things are happening at the same time. So doing an outline can help you keep track of what's happening and when it's happening.